Welcome everyone to another episode of Parenting in the Far North. I'm your host, Erin Bureau, and AlisaMarie is my guest today. Now, she has always lived her life a little outside of the box. From her lifestyle to her parenting, she's always tried to stay true to herself and her convictions and unapologetic about how she lives. She's been an entrepreneur for 13 years with multiple businesses and has experience in fitness, health and wellness, coaching, yoga, breathwork, birthwork, and photography. Now with teenagers, she's navigating new waters in her own life. She's passionate about supporting women through the portal and transformation of birth, not only the birth of a baby, but also the birth of a mother. Please welcome to the podcast, AlisaMarie. Welcome.
Hi, thank you for having me. That's a lot.
It is a lot, and I love it. And we're going to dive all into this here in the next half an hour. But I know we've met. We did a story with you when you were doing some of your things with your entrepreneur, which we'll kind of get into if you want a little bit later on. But first, just tell us a little bit about yourself. I know we put it here. Who is AlisaMarie?
Oh, gosh.
In a nutshell.
I've always been passionate about a lot of different things. Mm-hmm. As you can see, I've done a lot of work in my life, and I've always had people go, well, you're going to have to pick one. What are you going to do about this? And I'm like, I don't want to pick one. I'm not going to pick one. I'm going to do it all as long as I'm having fun and feeling good. So I started parenting really young, and I was young and naive, but also passionate and knew what I wanted to do and how I wanted to raise my kids. And, parenting, we fumble our way through.
I'm right there with you. There's no rule book out there.
Exactly. And so they're 12 and 15 now.
Wow.
And they're pretty awesome humans. So I feel like I did something right. So then I kind of went into like my self-discovery of growing up with them, having kids starting at 18 was hard. And then finding myself and growing alongside them.
That's amazing. And I know we've talked to a lot of moms here, and, whatever you're comfortable in sharing, some of them talk about their birth story. I know me, I personally put mine out there after having my daughter and going through PPD, and, we knew it was out there, but it's not going to happen to me. I'll be fine. And then boom, it hits you. What was your birthing experience?
So my first one, I was 18. I had a C-section, which was not a necessary one, but at the time they just made it seem like that was what I had to do, and I didn't really know any better. So I said, okay, sure. And I decided 3 years later that I didn't want to go that route. So I started doing a lot of research. I ended up having a home birth with my second. So it was an HBAC, which was very controversial.
Yeah.
I had to fly a midwife up from out of state and say that it was legally unassisted. And I made that choice, and I'm very happy with that choice. It was a really healing process for me. But I would say after both of my kids, I had very bad postpartum depression. And I thought after the first one, I was like, well, I'm going to do the second one right. And then it's not going to happen to me. And it still happened. I had a beautiful birth, and I had healthy babies, and I had all the things that everyone makes you feel like is the most important.
Yeah.
And I was struggling, and I didn't know how to ask for help because it was shameful. So then you go through the shame cycle of, I had a healthy baby, I shouldn't be sad, So I experienced it both times, and it was very, very hard. And I'm very passionate about talking about that and claiming it for what it is.
Yeah.
Because I think a lot of us, even sometimes in my birth training over the weekend, we were talking about how people say, I had postpartum. Like they don't even want to claim depression. Right. And I think we can talk about postpartum anxiety and depression and not feel guilt and shame surrounding it.
Absolutely. No, I agree. And there's so many of the psychosis with it. So it's normal. And the more we talk about it, the more we break down that stigma. When you were going through it, what did you lean into that eventually kind of helped you kind of get through it? And it took some time.
Yeah, I would say I didn't figure it out after the first one. After the second one, I started to get really healthy in my body, and that really changed my whole life. I started changing what I was eating, noticing allergies in my son and me, because that was one of our big issues, and starting to move my body.
All right. Well, speaking of movement, finding yourself, you're right here, and connecting with your body through movement. Tell me a little bit about that.
I think we have this idea of getting your body back after a baby, and this pressure of exercise as how it looks, aesthetic. And when I'm talking about exercising throughout pregnancy and postpartum, it's really not about that. It's about nourishment for your body. And so if you hate a certain workout, don't punish yourself doing that. Like, we're not working out to punish our body. We're working out to celebrate it where it is. And our goal isn't to get our body back from pre-pregnancy. Our goal is to feel good in the body we have now. So I've done this in healthy ways and unhealthy ways. So I've definitely learned through the years. I've also a history of eating disorders and body dysmorphia, of really punishing my body through it. And over the years, I've realized that it's about so much more than aesthetic, and really moving for your body and nourishing your body should feel good. It's not always easy. It's certainly challenging, but it shouldn't feel like a punishment.
I'm glad you said that, because like somebody like, I'm gonna jump and do cardio. There's nothing wrong with cardio, but like nowadays it's, especially for women over a certain age, like walking, it does tremendous things.
Dancing. Can we just dance? Like, there are so many ways to move your body, and then to show your kids healthy ways instead of just like grinding and punishing yourself.
So talk about untraditional styles of exercise. You touched on a little bit, and also breath work. And of course, nourishing your body does come with that. Like what you mentioned, that's all kind of
it's a whole package deal. So I got into yoga. And that was a hard one for me because it was pretty boring. But I also like structure. And so I liked the repetition of it for a little while. And then I started to get really bored. And then I started to find more untraditional yoga where it incorporated louder music and more movement and dance. And back then we didn't have the word somatics. So when I opened my studio, Burn and Bloom, I called it body movement because I was like, I don't want to be confined by just the yoga box. But now what we know more about the Body Keeps Score and body mind connection, shaking and moving and listening to music and feeling that beat, there's a lot more in the practice that I do and that I've kind of blended together with a variety of dance and cardio and strength. And listen, I love burpees, don't get me wrong, but I want to do my burpees to loud music and I want to shake it out.
You gotta get pumped up.
Exactly. So there's so many more ways to move your body. And that's what I love about not fitting into one box.
And that's the class that we came and filmed her in. It was the Burn and Bloom, and I was like, this is amazing.
It's different.
It's the whole vibe, it's the whole energy. And from doing that, like what are some of the stories you heard from some of your clients of just maybe were hesitant to try it out and then you just can't get them out? They keep coming back.
Transformational. I mean, it really, so many transformational. People come in and there's something really about connecting to your body. So when I started doing the practice, I realized it was the first time that I had ever really truly connected to my body, especially growing up with a lot of guilt and shame surrounding our bodies. And I felt powerful and I felt strong and I felt hot and I was moving and feeling good. And so getting to hold space for other people to come in and do that in the studio and seeing like, oh, we would cry, we would scream, there would be cursing. There's a huge release that comes from getting out of your head and getting into your body and just letting it move.
Yeah, because I would say one time I remember I was working out pretty hard. It was after having my daughter and I just let loose. I started crying like in the middle going through doing my workout, but it was such a huge release and I was like, whoa, and kind of had to take a moment. It's
amazing. It's so amazing. And just really embracing that and allowing yourself to feel all of the feelings that you want to feel. And I think it's interesting because the practice has kind of blended into when I was at a birth, because I also do birth work and doula work. And one of my students from classes was giving birth, and I came back to like Burn and Bloom and the fire and I'm like, we've done this in class, you know how to do this, and she was crying and it was that kind of release because that's what it feels like.
That's amazing. Let's talk about navigating the darkness and portal into parenting.
So I think that we are failing mothers in this regard. There's this, the bounce back, there's this, you're happy, you should be happy you have a healthy baby, and why are you not back to normal? And especially now with a lot of women in the workplace, you go into the depths when you go into labor and delivery. Regardless of the kind of birth that you have, there's a darkness and a portal. And my new project, Wolf Mother, is really about, it beautifully frames the portal as kind of the den. When you go into the den, you don't come out the same person. You can't. That person who goes in has to die, and you say goodbye to her, and there's grief in that, and it's okay to grieve that, and it's okay to feel sad about the woman that you were. It's okay. You can also with grieving and saying goodbye, welcome in this new version and get to meet this new version of mother and who is that. And so I think that by not talking about it and by kind of like, no, we're just happy, our baby's healthy and we're happy and we're pulling it all together, we're doing a disservice. And I think we need to be able to talk about it and support, really truly support parents through it.
Yeah.
Mothers and fathers, and yes.
Yeah, and the dads too.
Absolutely.
We kind of forget about them,
Yeah.
unfortunately, because they're in that space of like, what do I do? The baby's so attached to mom. And
Totally. And they also watching their partner go through something as transformational, but not feeling it. So they're just watching, and it is very helpless. There's not a whole lot they can do. And so being able to talk about it, I think, is the like first step of really taking away the shame, normalizing these things, and then welcoming in the new version.
Yes.
Yeah.
So your project, you've been working on this. I know. I've been seeing you, and you kind of launched it, so to speak. So tell me about it. What was the work that goes into this? And you're constantly educating yourself. Like, she is nonstop. She's like, I'm on a class, I'm doing this, but you do it so well and so gracefully.
I love being a student. So I'm always trying to, I always want to, I'm doing a bunch of trainings right now.
Shall I ask how many trainings you have on your plate right now?
I lost count. But Wolf Mother is, it's really allowing that both, right? The feral, the protector, the provider that women also are, the mother, the archetype, the mother, like all of it. It just, I feel like Wolf Mother is so powerful. And for me, I mean, I've been doing birth work for many, many years. I love the birth of a baby. It's beautiful. It's a miracle. It's incredible. But I'm most passionate about the birth of the mother because she often gets forgotten in that process. So Wolf Mother is birth photography, which I've been doing for many, many years. It's birth support, my doula work. It's now, I became a birth educator, certified birth educator. So my friend Lena and I, she's a retired midwife. We've come up with a birth education course that we're going to be releasing soon. Nice. Okay. And it's the birth ed course that you're not seeing out there. It's about a lot more than just the birth of the baby. We call it the mother birth ed. And so I'll be launching that and doing some birth ed online and in person. And we're working on a pregnancy journal. And so there's a lot more to come with Wolf Mother.
Oh, I love that. Exciting. Does this tie into where you told me about birth, rebirth?
Yeah, it is a lot about the birth and the rebirth. It's a lot about, it's supporting the parents a little bit more than I think we've seen. And listen, birth education is great. And like finding out how to breathe through your labor and learning about heartburn, awesome, all good things. But what I really want to talk about is a lot deeper than that. It's a little bit more explicit. I just think that we haven't seen anything out there like this, and I'm really excited to bring that to a lot of people that are starting to go on this parenting journey. They want more. They want more.
And I think since COVID, the talk about mental wellness has really kind of opened up, which is great. I don't think we've talked about it more than we have since then.
True.
I still think we can continue to do more, in your opinion, just here living in Anchorage in Alaska. We're kind of secluded, especially in those dark winter months. Do you find that that's a really tough time for some moms or women that you work with versus, a day like today where it's super sunny? And
I made a joke last week that the sun came out and my mental illness was healed because it does make a difference. Also, Alaska is pretty manic. So for those that, summer is like, do, you have to do all these things and you're trying to cram it all in, that it's exhausting. And then winter is so long and dark. And so we are it's a little bit different here. Community is different here as well. I think in general, we talk about mean girls in high school, but you get into motherhood and the mean moms are out there and pretty judgmental and harsh. So finding community that isn't that is challenging. It's out there. There are other mothers out there that want to support and love and welcome in. But that's a whole other thing to navigate regardless of where you are. But when you are somewhere here, there's not as many of us, right? As like a bigger city where you can kind of find your place.
Right.
But what I think is really unique about here is that we don't have as many of the cliques like I've seen in other states. I lived in California for a couple of years. Because here I feel like it's more, you do you.
Yeah.
You do you, I'm going to do me. And like, we're very different, but we can still love each other. So our community here is unique.
I love that. So your boys, you said they're how old, 12 and 15?
12 and 15.
How's it been for them just kind of seeing this process of you grow and you growing with them, you know, as you mentioned at 18 and like you kind of grew up with them, but and then transition into, you know, to mother.
Yeah, I would say, you know, I went through a divorce when they were, 5 and 9, around there, a little younger. And so they got to see single working mom, which had been brand new because I had always been a stay-at-home mom. So going from stay-at-home mom with them full-time to single working mom to then opening up a studio, they were there for that whole process. They were with me at the studio till 2 a.m. doing work and taking naps in the studio. They really they went to my photo shoots with me. They went to my birth consults with me. They've been by my side through all of it. There's a lot of things I'm proud of and there's a lot of things I'm not proud of, you know, and we talk very openly now, especially with my 15-year-old, about I have no problem apologizing and having a conversation when I do something wrong and asking questions. And so now they're at the age that I've started asking them, hey, how am I showing up? How am I doing right now? I feel like things are really good, but what is your perception of that? And listen, my 12-year-old's 12, right? He's like, I don't know. Cool. Glad we had this talk. My 15-year-old is a lot more expressive and we have those conversations and it's cool. They got to see me through a lot. They also got to see me fall in love and get married and welcome in a new family member to our family. And so, we've been a pretty good team, but with that comes a lot of, I don't know. I'm pretty unapologetically me, you know? So sometimes I'm like, oh geez, okay. I've got kids. I've got to also reel it in sometimes, but they know I'm a total weirdo, mom. Right? It's mom. And I was like, you know, if that's what you take away, like when you're an adult and you look back and you're like, whew, that's mom. She's like, a little wild. I'm okay with that, you know, sweet. And they know about birth and they've been, they're pretty educated when it comes to that stuff. We talk openly about counseling and mental health and all of it,
which is so great. You know, I think families should do that and have those. And I love how you said you asked them to show up. I'm the same way. Of my daughter's 8 and I have no problem being like, mommy didn't mean to yell, or mommy was irritated, and they're like, oh, okay. The kids are resilient.
They are. And it's also, can you imagine if when you were a teenager, like your parents did something and it was really upsetting? I'm not saying I don't upset them less than I do.
Right.
But then they came back and asked you about it. And they apologized when they needed to. I mean, and then for my husband coming in, I told them, I'm like, he's in the toddler years, but you guys remember it all, right? You don't remember how much I messed up when we were 1 to 3. Like, we're going to have a little extra grace with him. And they're like, that makes sense. Like, none of us have done this before. This is our first time. So we're going to mess up and we're going to come back together and we're going to let that repair make us stronger. And I think that we don't often give enough credit to the repairs because it sucks to mess up. I hate it. And I am really hard on myself sometimes, but after the repair, it's usually a lot better, stronger.
What is your take on mom guilt and how would you, share with other moms out there? I know for me, I'm just like, it just constantly lives there. And
totally.
I'm just like, I guess I just accept this, or maybe that's just, it comes with being a mom or a parent,
Yeah, I think that, I mean, it's a serious job. It is serious. And sometimes I look around and I wonder if everyone's taking it as seriously as I am. I do take things seriously. No, because I think, especially in this day of like influencers and their kids are all matching clothes and my 4-year-old is my best friend. And I'm like, no, your 4-year-old's not your best friend. Come back when they're 15 and they're their own person and they're not doing all the things you want them to be doing, right? Then how are you showing up for your kids? Because that's the kind of like parenting we're seeing online. And so we're not raising cute, aesthetically pleasing kids. We're raising humans that are going to go into society. So it is serious. And I don't think having that like, am I doing this right, is bad. Being consumed by the guilt, which I think most of us are, overly critical. I messed up this, I did this. Yeah, I think some of that is just having to let go and being, I'm human. And I'm saying all that, it's a lot easier said than done, but I'm human. This is our first time, right? So we come back to that a lot. I also feel like while being a mother is something I'm extremely proud of, it is not who I am. It's something I do, and it's a part of me, and it has made me the woman that I am today, but it's not all that I am. And I think especially when your kids are young and you get into like, this is it, this is the box you're in, you lose yourself. So not only have you like lost the woman that you were before you had them, right? And now you haven't really fully grieved that. You haven't fully welcomed in this new mother, and then you're just the mother. And then who are you? And I think all of that plays a role in our mental health. So I think it's extremely important. And it's when they get a little bit older. Listen, my kids were attached to me for many years. I'm not saying right away, but slowly finding like, who am I outside of this one thing that I am, this one beautiful, powerful thing, but who am I outside of that?
Yeah, because at some point they're going to go live their lives, and then you have you and your husband, so then you're going to have that space where it's you two. And, I agree and say for families and couples, how do you, what do you share with those families where you got to still have a date night?
Absolutely.
You got to still nourish that relationship with your partner. And then also on that, you have a blended family.
Totally.
I can relate to that as well.
Totally. And I think something that I really, in the last year that I realized, and I was telling my older son, I was like, you have to understand that my whole life went from like protecting you, like holding and protecting and this like shield over you, to you don't need that anymore. And so now I'm navigating, wait, who am I and what's my role as a mother? And that's changing. And I think that's why a lot of us kind of panic, and then we try to control, right? So I'm like trying to do everything I can to control. And so I finally had this like switch flipped, and I was like, I now need to be the net for when you mess up. What happens? How can I hold you in that space? I'm no longer that protective covering and more of the safety net. And that mindset shift was huge. Really? And really allowing myself to let go. And again, with blended families, I have no control over what happens at the other house. That's not my home. And so my biggest advice to blended families particularly is trying to let go of some of that as they're getting older. I'm not talking about like safety things when they're younger, but really accepting, for me, co-parenting, that trend was not super healthy for me. It's more of a parallel parenting. And when I let go of the need to control and trying to worry about everything and going, I'm doing the best I can at my home. This is how we are in our home. This is how I am with my partner. And these are our priorities. This is how we live, and letting go of the rest. That was huge for us and our family, and for my partner as well.
I love that. What do you got going on right now? I know you just did your launch, and what do you want to let people know? Do you have, and how can people get in touch with you? I know you're on the socials and things like that.
I'm on the socials. Simply AlisaMarie. I've got Wolf Mother Birth. Burn and Bloom is my body movement, somatic healing practice. I'm doing some coaching, like within dating and with life stuff. As much as I hate that term coaching, I'm like, I'm a pretty good coach.
You are.
Breath work. We are going to be launching more with Wolf Mother Birth. Podcast is coming. All of it. SimplyAlisaMarie.com. You can find it all there.
She's all there in one shot. Well, as we wrap up, is there anything that you want to just share or mention that's on your heart? I will give you the final word, because I want to make sure that I let you have your space and just share. That's what this podcast is here for.
Well, we spoke about a lot, but on that of having space, I would say take up all the space. Take up the space. Find what you're passionate about and what you love, and even as a mother, right, other things in your life that really light you up, and don't let anybody dim that. Don't let anybody put that out. Don't feel like you can only be one person or one version, because you're going to be so many. And so allow that to happen. Allow that process of like the birth and the death and the rebirth of all the versions of you, and take up space. This year is all about getting weirder. That's what I'm saying this year. Is just like, I'm going to get as weird as I want, you know, and take up space and have fun. We have one life, and we say these things all the time, but like only one, and nothing is promised. And so what are you doing every single day that really fills you up?
I love that. I'm a big person on energy, and already I can just tell you, for those listening, I'm just like, this is great. I'm gonna go get me in a class or something. I'm gonna come do this body.
I've got some online classes for now. I am looking at more locations. I do pop-ups around town. I miss the studio a lot. I'm looking at spaces.
I know they were missing you. Yeah,
I know.
I get that a lot.
I get that a lot. So, stay tuned. There's always more to come.
There is, yeah. And all right, well, that is AlisaMarie, everyone. You can find her on the socials. And of course, for your website on the video portion of this, we'll be sure to hyperlink that for you. So thank you so much for taking the time and coming on and talking with us today.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, and thank you all for listening to another episode of Parenting in the Far North.